All right, so yesterday the big news was Kerry King is finally releasing his solo album. This has been something that has been speculated or has been at least talked about in every aspect of the metal scene in regards to the blogs and just fans as a whole. It's just the Kerry King band. He is stacked with, I guess you could say, other well-known musicians for the most part. So the drummer is Paul. I can't say his last name. He was previous session drummer for Slayer, so he's got some Slayer in this new band. He's got Kyle Sanders from Hell Yeah on bass. I'm not a huge Hell Yeah fan. In fact, I can probably name like one song. But okay. Guitarist Phil Demmel, which I think was the one thing that I enjoyed when I saw. I'm a Machine Head fan, unapologetically too. I don't care if people like him or not. I like Machine Head. I grew up with them. It's one of the first metal bands that, or like one of the first like newer-ish metal bands that I started, really listening to and getting into. I don't really care for their new stuff at all, but a lot of their older stuff I really like, especially The Blackening. That's probably my favorite album by them. So I thought that was cool. Phil was a cool thing to see. And then I think the big thing that I was curious about, and this is the only reason why I listened to the song, was the lead singer is going to be Mark from Death Angel. Uh, so I was very curious after that because he's got a very distinct voice. It doesn't really remind me of Tom Araya whatsoever. Yeah, so it was, it was all the register. So I finally listened to it. And before I get into my thoughts on the song and where I think this is going to go and if I'm excited, I did poll my Instagram and my YouTube channel about what people thought of this. And the results were not shocking at all. So let's talk about it. So on my Instagram, I said thoughts on the new Kerry King song. The, the options were it's trash, not thrash, it's trash, sounds like Slayer, or loved it. Over 500 people voted on this, and the consensus is that it sounds like Slayer. A lot of people didn't like it, and a very few loved it. This was not surprising whatsoever. The sounds like Slayer was kind of a uh, option to choose if you don't know if you love it or if you don't know if you hate it, but you know what it sounds like. Pretty much, kind of like in the middle option. So I wasn't surprised about that. On my YouTube channel, pretty much generally the same thing. Only 147 people voted, which is fine because the YouTube community section is not always as well known. Not everybody looks at the posts or interacts with them, especially on my channel. But yeah, pretty much around the same. So a lot of comments here. Um, yeah, a big meh. Basically, the only thing that's good at the moment is Carrie's other band members, which that's a dig, man. um, big meh, big meh. So two people said meh. Necrotic Nick from Thralls and Metal said it's decent. How awesome Mark sounded on vocals. Yeah, I will say Mark sounded good on vocals. B-side of Repentless, so we'll get to that in a minute. And then it's exactly what I expected. I really liked the song. I thought it was pretty good. All of the above, thrash. It sounds like Slayer, and I loved it. Okay, so we had some people that loved it, and that's totally fine. And I think people probably are going to assume I'm going to love it because I'm a huge Slayer fan. I'm a huge Slayer fan, but I'm not a huge Slayer fan in that everything that they've ever released or everything that they've ever done, I'm just absolutely obsessed with, and they can do no wrong. No, 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 no. That's not the type of Slayer fan I am. I'm a huge Slayer fan, yes. I do own all of their albums. I've done a past video on it. I did a whole stream with Marty and Alan, Heavy Metallurgy. Um, but this song I was not too impressed with, and there's a couple reasons why. The one thing is, Kerry King did say on an interview, and I don't remember where, this was basically a B-side, what Nick said. It was written during Repentless. It was meant to go on Repentless, but he wasn't a fan of it, something about the sound or whatever, and they scrapped it. So he brought it back to life for this. And my initial thought on that was, why? And the reason for that is because was hoping, and I know this was a big hope, and this was probably a big ask, and it just wasn't going to make any sense for him to do this. I was hoping he maybe would have stepped in a different direction here and done something that wasn't Slayer. But again, Slayer is his, I guess you could say, identity. Um, whether he wants it to be or not, which I think he wants it to be. I don't know. I'm not speaking for him. I just that's just an assumption. Don't get angry with me. Um, I was just really hoping that it wouldn't sound like Slayer. It would sound something like different. Maybe thrashy, yes, for sure. I need more thrash in my life. I need new thrash in my life. I don't like a lot of the newer thrash bands. I can't get down with the ones that are popular. I just can't listen to them for very long. And Slayer is one of my favorite thrash bands. I would have loved a new thrash band. But this song sounds exactly like Slayer, to the point of where, yes, Mark is a different vocalist, and yes, he does sound different than Tom Araya, but there is still the same type of tempo in the vocal style that is similar to Tom's vocals that just sound similar. Like, it just sounds like it's a cover band of Slayer with a different vocalist, that's why. Um, and that's not necessarily bad. It's not a terrible song, that's for sure. Not, but it didn't wow me. It didn't make me excited, and I just am really hoping that this is the only reason why it sounds like Slayer is because it was meant to be for Slayer. Um, and I'm hoping that the rest of the music that comes out is its own identity, its own sound. Doesn't have to revolutionize anything because I doubt that it will. Like, these are seasoned musicians; they've been around for a very long time in the scene. A lot of their writing styles will be heavily influenced, and those sounds will be in here, especially um, Machine Head and stuff like that. But yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of it. I didn't hate it. Will I listen to it again? Probably not. If I hear it on like my Sirius XM in my car, I won't turn it off. Um, but yeah, I really want Kerry King to take a step back from the Slayer stuff. And again, maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. Maybe that's just, that's his ID. That's who he is now. That's who everybody knows him as. So he's gonna ride with that to get to get success from this, and that's totally fine. But I was just hoping for something a little bit different. Now the whole album may be different. Maybe this is just a one off. But I was annoyed that, not annoyed, but just kind of like, why would you choose a song that was just Slayer like as your solo album? Like, why wouldn't you have picked a song that would be more of like, this is Kerry King? I don't know. The choice around that obviously is totally up to him. I'm just some, peasant YouTuber with less than 5,000 subscribers. But I figured I would weigh in. I don't think it's trash. I think that's a pretty strong statement. There's definitely worse music out there that has been made, and that is not some of the worst music that he's ever made. But it's just meh to me. I am gonna listen, when the new album comes out in May. I think it's May 17th or something like that. I will definitely listen to it. If I get a promo copy of it, which is very well possible I might even do a review on it. But for now, it's just meh. So, it's just curious to know your thoughts in the comments. I know there's going to be like the super diehards that are just like, it was awesome, I'm excited. And for once, I'm just not. And that doesn't happen very often. I get very pumped up. Like, for example, last year the Cavalera brothers, they re-released, Bastille Devastation and Beneath the Remains. Was it Beneath the Remains? Shit, I'm completely... No. Yes. No, not Beneath the Remains. Anyway, ignore Morbid Visions. There we go. Woo! Okay, so they re-released those. They re-recorded them, completely did a whole new thing, new artwork and everything, and people were kind of like, ooh, and I thought it was awesome. I was so pumped about it. Sounded fantastic. Listen to them still. Sometimes I choose them over the originals, and the originals are obviously iconic. But yeah, I was so pumped about that. I was excited about it. So, I mean, obviously, if he had come out with a Slayer, like, redo, where he remastered and completely rewrote a whole entire Slayer album on his own, probably wouldn't have been excited about that either. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit too critical here. But yeah, there are instances where I get really pumped when these, like, legends of the metal scene, they come back, they do things, and it's exciting, and I'm pumped about it. Admittedly, just for this, I'm just kind of meh. So we'll see. I am curious to hear the rest of the album, curious to know what everybody else thinks about it. It's been all the rage. I figured I'd hop on, get some content out, get some views. View chasing is what people call it. And that's all that I have today. I have a couple reviews coming up. I did get some new stuff in the mail, like I talked about. I'll show it off, and I'll see you guys in the next one.